Hey guys, welcome back, and now it's time to talk about some of the 1, 2, and 3s as far as order, 1 being the most farm, 2 being the second highest farm, 3 being the third highest farm of people on your team and what items are underused there. Now on this page there isn't a lot of items that aren't used often, such as the Hand of Midas. However, Hand of Midas is used fairly often on a Nature's Prophet. It's a good item, and it's not underused so much as it is just minimally used, given the nature of it. On the second page, I would like to address the Medallion of Courage. The Medallion of Courage is underused because people think, reduces the armor of you and your target lasts 7 seconds. It gives you plus 6 armor, and the armor reduction on it is 6. It also gives you plus 50% mana regeneration and costs 1,075. Now, a lot of people are like, well, it only lasts for 7 seconds, so that's not a big deal. It reduces your armor as well as your enemies, so it kind of puts you on equal footing, so it's kind of situational. What is the point of this? Alright, now the things I want to point out are, first of all, a 7-second cooldown. That's next to nothing. That's next to nothing. That means this ability is spammable. 7-second cooldown, the debuff lasts 7 seconds. You can keep this debuff on any enemy permanently, which is good. But it's not necessarily used for ganking so much as it is used for killing creeps. It's extremely useful with a Lycan. In fact, it's generally the only person that really should be getting it almost every game is the Lycan. And the reason that the Lycan would be getting it is because you can use this ability on a powerful creep like an Ursa or a Centaur Warchief creep, one of the big centaurs. And then you have everyone attack it. Well, the Centaur, as long as you micro correctly, back your Lycan up, get the wolves to be attacking so that the wolves are taking the damage, the Lycan will never experience the penalty of losing 6 armor because no one's hitting him. Meanwhile, everyone attacking that Centaur will experience the bonus of having 6 armor removed from the Centaur. So, Medallion of Courage, it's arguably okay on Nature's Prophet. You don't really see it often, but I wouldn't be opposed to it if the Nature's Prophet was really getting fat, like he had more stuff that he knew what to do with. It might be acceptable, but in general, the only hero that should be getting it every game, and I honestly don't see him as often as I should, is Lycan. Lycan should almost always have a Medallion of Courage. It's just a great item for him to get fat with. Next on the list, Necronomicon. Necronomicon is a, I guess I could say 4-step, but I think 4-step's used enough. Necronomicon, I don't know if this is underused because I use it every single game that I play a lot of heroes. There's certain heroes that I will almost always get a Necro book on. The Beastmaster probably being the greatest example of this. And if I'm going to be a Lycan and have a pushing role, I'm going to use the Necronomicon. And then if I'm really fat, sometimes I'll use it on a Shadow Shaman. However, just in general, it's a really good item. It's okay in teamfights, but most importantly, it's extremely good at pushing towers if you have another pushing mechanism with you. And if you have AoEs coming off of you, such as the Lycan's passives and the Beastmaster's passives, it synergizes well. So Lycan, Beastmaster, possibly Nature's Prophet, not really, kind of up in the air on that. I don't think so, but I could see it done. And Broodmother, if you get a Vlad's on Broodmother, and a Assault Cuirass, because then the Necronomicons have the bonuses inherent of those items. A Dagon is okay. It's a good item, and it can be upgraded again and again and again and again and again. It'd be upgraded until it does a 800 burst damage and has a 24-second cooldown. So a Dagon it's really good. I don't want to say it's underused. At its highest level, it does 800 damage with a 24-second cooldown and only costs 100 mana. So it's retardedly broken at its highest level, but it costs 8,005 gold. If you have a max level Dagon, it's the only item that you'll probably have that game. So I don't know how I feel about it entirely. but overall I don't think it's underused. It's just I think it's just not used enough. I think it would be better if it were used more often, but all in all, because of the price tag attached to it, I don't think it's that underused. Veil of Discord. Magic weakness. Emits a weakening blast that increases magic damage enemies take. Lasts 20 seconds. This would be really good for a Zeus, because you could trigger this ability and then burn all Zeus's cooldowns, including his ult, and that's 25% damage that you do to everyone in the area, which is actually huge. You're talking about doing the difference between 800 or 900 or even 1,000 damage and doing 1,250 damage. So that's a pretty big bonus there. However, this item is highly situational, and I'd think if you play a hero that revolves around nukes, specifically Zeus as the archetypal best example of this, it's something to look into, but for most heroes, I think it's probably used at an appropriate level. The biggest one I want to address on this page is the Rod of Attose, which is, it's useful, but it's kind of useless when you compare it to the alternatives that you have. It slows the target's movement speed for 4 seconds by 50%, which lets you set up a gank. It gives you plus 250 health, plus 25 intellect, and it's 3,100 total. However, I want to address that for 5,600 you can get Hex from the Scythe of Vice. You get the Sheep Stick. You can turn the enemy into a critter for 3.5 seconds. So not only are they slowed, they actually can't attack. And that lasts for 3.5 seconds versus this only lasts for half a second longer. If you're going for an item that you're going to use to disable an enemy, you're going to want to go for the Scythe of Vice anyway. So there's no reason why you should be going for the Rod of Attose. You want to just be going for the Scythe of Vice. And, I mean, there's so many other items that fulfill the role of the Rod of Attose anyway, that it doesn't really have a place when you consider that the Scythe of Vice is right there. Next on the list, Divine Rapier. Divine Rapier is underused. It's an item that costs 6,200 and gives you plus 300 damage per hit, but if you die, you drop it and your enemies get it. So that's kind of a huge deal. But the thing that I want to point out is if you can come back to life. For instance, on the Skeleton King, if we have a good Skeleton King, if you can play a good Skeleton King, if you can get farmed up and you have the ability to get enough mana to maintain your ult, and you don't have an anti-mage against you or anyone that relies on burning your mana, nobody's packing a Desolator against you. If Skeleton King gets his ult, and he gets the Aegis from Roshan, that means you have to kill the Skeleton King 3 times before he drops the Divine Rapier. So Divine Rapier is actually not that bad of a pick for Skeleton King as long as he knows what he's doing. If you're going to get it, you might want to get a Shadow Blade too, just in case, because you're really going to be relying on not dying. Killing people will be easy, surviving not so much. You want to get a BKB, other things like that. Divine Rapier is still extremely situational, but I think it's underrated. I think it should be used more, especially on, like I said, the Skeleton King, because you gotta kill him 3 times anyway. Next on the list, Hood of Defiance, 30% spell resistance. It's not used very much at all, unless you're going to get a Pipe of Insight. But I just think in general it's a good item. I think it should be used more often by people that are trying to become tankier. 2,100 is a pretty respectable price for 8 hit point regen and 30% spell resistance. That 8 hit point regen will really help you out. That's all I have on that page. I want to give a special mention to the BKB, or the Black King bar. It's used non-stop in the pro scene, it's used a lot in the pub scene, but it should be used more in the pub scene. Whether or not you used it, the first time you use it, it works for 10 seconds and has an 80-second cooldown, and every time you use it, it lasts for a slightly shorter period of time and has a slightly shorter cooldown, with the lowest being 5 seconds active for a 55-second cooldown. It gives you plus 10 strength, plus 24 damage, and has 3,900 price tag attached to it. The BKB you need it. You have to have it in a lot of situations. It's always a good thing to have if your opponent's team has a lot of CC, because it will stop Sven's hammer. It will stop CK's Chaos Bolt. It will stop... I'm just looking at the enemy heroes up there. I believe it stops all of Tiny's abilities. I believe it will stop the Alchemist's Unstable Concoction. It stops so much. It won't stop Zeus's ultimate, but it'll stop all the damage from Zeus's ultimate. So it will reveal where you are to Zeus, but you won't take any damage from his ult. It's an incredibly powerful item. I think most people know what it is and what it does, but if you don't know what a BKB is, you really need to look into it a little bit more, because it's one of the most game-breaking items out there. It's one of those. It's a game changer. If everyone on your team has a BKB and you're against a team that relies on a lot of teamfight ultimates, you pretty much auto-win. Next, Maelstrom, kind of underused, but it's underused because of this item, Battle Fury. The Battle Fury gives you this cleave damage, and the Maelstrom has a chance to give you Chain Lightning, and the same goes for the Mulgenir. Both of these items are relied on for their Chain Lightning abilities and their attack speed. The problem is there's no real reason to get it. Like, when you could get a Battle Fury to get you farmed up for a lot less, or a decent amount less, and it's also not magic damage, it's better to have the Battle Fury. The Mulgenir and the Maelstrom, very rarely used. They're pretty fun when you get them, but generally speaking, you'd rather have a Battle Fury. Next on the list, a Diffusal Blade's kind of underused. It basically gives you it basically will give you, at its highest level, 36 mana burn per hit. So think about the Anti-Mage's auto attack. It'll basically give you something like that. The Heaven's Hailbird. Active ability, disarms the target for 4.0 seconds, lasts 3.0 seconds on melee targets, and it gives you a chance on attack to slow movement speed for 4.0 seconds. So a 15% chance to slow people for 20%. And it gives you plus 25% evasion, plus 25 damage, plus 20 strength. This is an incredible item for a solid ganker, especially a strength ganker. A Spirit Breaker or a Night Stalker could really have fun with this item. It's barely ever used, and I think it's one of the most underused items in the game. I think this is one of the few items that carries just don't use that they really should look into a lot more. It's extremely good. And I think last on the list we'll put up the Eye of Scotty. Eye of Scotty, on ranged heroes you can get lifesteal attack modifiers, so you can actually get an Eye of Scotty which has an auto attack that slows movement speed of your opponents by 30% and their attack speed by 20%, and you can get a Satanic or Helm of the Dominator on your ranged heroes to get lifesteal. So Eye of Scotty will not prevent ranged heroes from having a lifesteal auto attack, and they will prevent melee, but melee can just go ahead and get a Vlad's. So Eye of Scotty is extremely powerful. It slows your enemy's movement speed, plus 25 all attributes, plus 200 health, plus 150 mana. The problem is, it's kind of situational based on the hero. It's good for something like a Drow. It's good for something like a, I don't know, Offhand. It's got a lot of potential if you have the farm for it, and it really varies. It's one of those items that's not used very often, but when it is, your opponents kind of have to bow to the fact that you have it. Plus 25 all attributes, plus 200 hit points, plus 150 mana. It's an extremely powerful item. In fact, it's one of my favorite items in the entire game. But I barely ever get it, and you rarely ever see people get it, just because of the price tag associated with it, and it doesn't have that specific role. Its most specific role is to slow the enemy movement speed while making you much more powerful, while making it so you do more damage, you attack faster, have more mana, and are harder to kill. So it's an extremely powerful item, It's one of those items that I like to have on most range heroes. If I'm going for a ranged role number 1 carry, it's an extremely good item to consider, and I just don't see it enough, so I wanted to throw that one out there. But the big one for this page is the Heaven's Halberd. 3,950 gold that could change your life. So that's it for this episode of Don't Feed Noob. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think that is all. I'll probably be streaming tonight. I've been streaming a lot lately, almost every night at around 8 p.m. Eastern Time, usually earlier on the weekends. But thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time. If you like this video, please upvote it, like it, and subscribe, and bye-bye. You can find me on Twitter at MackTen, and for information about my live stream on Twitch TV, check this video's information.